Hey, welcome back. I just want to share some thoughts and my views in this episode on why time is really running out for investing in Bitcoin before the actual price starts to skyrocket quite significantly, at least during the remainder of this year. Now, before I start on that, I just want to just give a few points on what are the key indicators that I personally use when I monitor, the state well-being of Bitcoin. So the first one that I look out for is stablecoins. Now, stablecoins is growing significantly in popularity, particularly in USDT, which is like the US tether, or the digital dollars that many countries refer to it. Now, tether stablecoin is mainly used for borderless payments. It's like an alternative to traditional banking transfers that we make, where it's quite slow, it's expensive, it's quite onerous as a process, there's a lot of lead time involved, whereas with tether or digital dollars, it's very, very fast, it's cheap, and it's borderless transaction. Now, has grown significantly, and it's usually a gateway into investing other assets such as Bitcoin. So it is, stablecoins is a good indicator, and it gives you the current synopsis as to how healthy Bitcoin and indeed other assets are faring in the marketplace. The next indicator that I use is the denominated hash rate in the Bitcoin blockchain itself. The hash rate is an important indicator because at the moment, presently, it's around 740 hexahash, which is at an all-time high. So the network difficulty to mine new Bitcoins, if we're seeing an incremental gains in the hash rate, and also coupling the fact that Bitcoin is indeed scarce, it only has 21 million in circulation. Well, this hash rate increase leading into the all-time high in the price of Bitcoin is an important indicator. And then, of course, you have a new indicator thanks to the US Security Exchange Commission approval of the 12 US Bitcoin spot ETFs. Again, we're seeing significant flows into the Bitcoin spot ETFs. At the moment, it's around $22 to $23 billion in total to date, ever since it's been approved on January this year. So that is moving up. Also, let me move on to MicroStrategy. As you know, MicroStrategy has been the first publicly traded company to have actually adopted Bitcoin, and hence is in the Bitcoin standard. Now, their strategy is quite simple in that they are continuing to buy more Bitcoins, regardless of the price. That's the only strategy they have. And they've just publicly released that they're going to sell off $2 billion worth of their own shares to buy more Bitcoin and keep it under their Bitcoin corporate treasury. So that gives a signal or a spike in demand. Demand is becoming constrained because there's too much demand out there. And sooner or later, this will have an impact on the actual Bitcoin price itself. So that's on the corporate side, and we have the likes of Semblance Scientific, Metaplanet, which are other global companies, public companies that have followed suit with what MicroStrategy has done to incorporate Bitcoins and keep it as a corporate treasury reserve on their balance sheets. Now, moving on to the political debate, we're all familiar now that this ongoing US presidential election, it's now becoming clearly a bipartisan debate. It's been kicked off with President Trump making a claim of adopting Bitcoin as a US strategic reserve. And now Harris, it's fair to say she hasn't really given a clarity as to her own stance on crypto. So just on her silence alone, we can take it that there's going to be some shenanigans happening in the background. It is now clearly a bipartisan issue on the US presidential campaign on Bitcoin and crypto at large. Currently, it's September 12th, it's hovering around $57,000, $58,000 a coin. If Trump wins in November, analyst predictions are hovering around between $80,000 and $150,000 versus $40,000 if Harris wins. Okay, so that's on the political side of things on Bitcoin. I also want to make a reminder on US state pensions. So these are pension funds for the US state employees. Now, since the start of this year, the state of Wisconsin have allocated $162 million in a couple of Bitcoin spot ETFs. Michigan State have also allocated a small amount, $6.6 million, in the ARC Bitcoin spot ETF fund. And the intention there is to hold it in a longer time horizon. And finally, the mayor of Jersey, in the state of New Jersey, has said on the X social media platform quite recently that they're going to be making an allocation of Bitcoin to the ETFs. They haven't actually made a claim to the amount or the timeline. But it's fair to say that from a pension fund perspective, there are clearly headways into investing quite heavily and quite significantly, making allocations from the pension funds into Bitcoin. And that trend is set to continue. Now, moving on to the sovereign state of things, we all know about El Salvador being the first country in the world to have adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender. And with the work of Samson Mao and his Jan 3 company, they're teaming up with other governments around the world to make a similar adoption. I think Argentina and Suriname and Saudi Arabia, UAE, and maybe a couple of others are starting to contemplate the idea of following El Salvador. It wouldn't be at all surprised if by the end of this year, if we will receive some important announcements from one of these countries, if not a couple, following the El Salvador approach of adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender in their countries. And also you have some other countries who have actually got Bitcoin on their national sovereign treasuries, mainly through confiscation activities. So we've got US, China, UK, we've got Ukraine, Finland, and Germany. We know that Germany has recently sold off, I think, the entirety, if not the majority, of Bitcoin holdings quite recently, I think in the month of July and August. We all know about the imminent central bank's rate cuts. So you got the Fed MOMC meeting, which is next week, next Wednesday, I believe. They're going to be expected to make 25 basis rate cut, and perhaps another one by the end of this year. The Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee, which is expected, I think, next week as well, they're going to be making a similar 25 basis point move, and another one I expect to be done by the end of this year in the Bank of England. The ECB, there's a forecast. They're currently sitting on an interest rate for the Eurozone of 4.25%. There's going to be a forecast of 75 basis points cuts by the end of this year, down to 3.5. So all of these events, as we know, interest rate cuts is a perfect opportunity to make cash cheap and to impulse on making investments. So in summary, I made quite a few claims as to why indeed time is running out. So I encourage you, for those who have already done their research, to start make purchases now, because once the price hikes, and it will be quite significant by the end of this year, it may be too late. Obviously, if you're not concerned about acquiring whole coins of Bitcoins, then obviously you can buy as many Satoshis as you want. You have a tremendous opportunity, which is now. I insist, now is the opportunity to acquire whole coins of Bitcoins, because by 2025 onwards, we're certainly going to be in the six-figure realm of the Bitcoin price. So hopefully you found this video interesting. If you have, please hit the like button. And if you have done so already, please subscribe to this channel, as I regularly upload rather interesting videos to you investors out there. So until next time.